No, one's probably mine.
I'd like to call to order the May 6, 2024 regular board meeting of the State College Area School District Board of Directors. If everyone could please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. So welcome to everyone joining us in person this evening and those viewing remotely. The board held an executive session prior to this meeting regarding personnel and real estate. Board members with an agenda before you, are there any changes? Okay. I'd now like to call the board secretary for a roll call of board members.
Dr. Bader.
Here.
Dr. Anderson.
Here.
Ms. Brandt.
Here.
Dr. Buck.
Here.
Dr. Crevecoeur.
Yeah.
Dr. Demo.
Here.
Ms. Huff.
Here.
Mr. Colby.
Here.
Dr. Miller.
Here.
All right. I now like to call on Mr. Johnson for a superintendent update.
All right, I have a few updates today. Attention fifth grade families. Park Forest and Mount Nittany Middle Schools are hosting information nights for all families and students entering the sixth grade this fall. We invite you and your rising sixth grader to attend and learn what middle school is all about. The sessions below are designed to provide you with helpful information as well as answer your questions about this upcoming transition. Park Forest Middle School will be at Wednesday, May 15th at 6 p.m. Mount Nittany Middle School will be Monday, May 22nd at 6:30 p.m. There will be signs at the schools directing you where to go. We hope to see you there. Next, registration for the 2024-25 SEAL program began today for current SEAL families. Registration opens to all other families on May 13th. SEAL is our elementary after-school program with a focus on extended learning opportunities in the area of art, STEM, language, and physical activity. We partner with multiple local agencies to provide enriching, engaging opportunities for students. Program fees, additional details, and a link to the online registration system can be found on the district website. Throughout May, during Mental Health Awareness Month, the district is partnering with the Jana Marie Foundation to spread positive messages of hope and encouragement throughout our community. Look for inspiring signs with uplifting statements like, "You are worthy of love," and "You are strong," "You are beautiful," "You are loved," displayed in front of our school buildings. Our goal is to remind every student that they matter, they have value, and they are not alone. Join us in supporting mental health, mental wellness, and creating a culture of kindness and compassion in our schools. Next, recently, myself and several board members attended the State College Area School District Education Foundation's annual Maroon and Gray banquet. It was a wonderful celebration for the SCASD community and supporters of the district. During the event, the foundation inducted the 2024 class of the Maroon and Gray Society, an outstanding group of 11 State High alums. You can read more about them and see pictures on our website. Congratulations to Park Forest Elementary teacher Janet Ortiz on being named the State College Magazine Teacher of the Year. Janet's creativity, professionalism, and dedication to her students are evident in her classroom every day, and we are so proud to have her represent our district with this honor. And next and last, I'm pleased to share the State High World Language Department has received a noteworthy recognition. The Pennsylvania State Modern Language Association recently gave State High a Silver Globe Award for having one of the best school language programs in the state. Congratulations to the faculty and students for receiving such an honor. So, congratulations.
That's great. Thank you, Mr.
A
Johnson.
lot going on.
Yes, that was a lot. I'd like to welcome Zofia Sullivan, the Delta student representative, for the remainder of the school year. Please feel free to provide your input. If you have any questions on anything and you want to contribute, just let me know. Raise your hand. And you can proceed with the student update.
Hi. So I have 4 updates. The National Wrestling Hall of Fame recently announced that State High Wrestling student athlete Pearson Manville won the 2024 Dave Schultz High School Excellence Award for Pennsylvania. This award recognizes and celebrates the nation's most outstanding high school senior male wrestlers for their excellence in wrestling, scholastic achievement, citizenship, and community service. There is only one winner per state. Given the popularity and participation of wrestling in Pennsylvania, this is quite an honor. Congratulations, Pearson. Recently, students from State High German classes competed against students from 12 other Pennsylvania schools at Penn State's annual German Day event. State High claimed a first-place school award, and individual students also won prizes for competitions such as spelling bees, poetry recitation, and trivia. Glückwunsch, or congratulations in English. Congratulations to the Park Forest Middle School and State High Technology Student Association chapters for their recent performances at the TSA State Conference. Park Forest took home 12 championships while State High notched 8. More details are available in the news section of the district website. Congratulations to State High senior Lydia Shen for being named a semifinalist in the prestigious U.S. Presidential Scholars Program. Out of 6,000 candidates who qualified based on SAT and ACT scores or by nomination, she was one of 625 who advanced to the final round. Good luck going forward, Lydia.
Great. Thanks, Sophia. Jackie, do you have a legislative update for us?
The update is it's May, and so budget season is in full swing. Lots of different advocacy groups are showing up at the Capitol to make their case for education funding. I'll be going with PA Schoolworks on Wednesday. Superintendents and principals were there last Wednesday. We will be pushing for the governor's proposed budget and talking a lot about cyber charter tuition reform. And of course, because Ms. Schaefer's in the audience, we're going to be talking about free lunches for school children as well. Hi. Yeah.
That's great.
Right. It takes everyone. So I'll be giving an update. After that, I managed to get in to see all of our legislators, which is really exciting. So we'll see what they have to say.
Great. Thanks for doing that. Gretchen or Peter, do you have a report from the COG?
I have a very short one. Just 3 updates from the COG. Greg Kohler is the new Millbrook Marsh supervisor, so that's sort of important to SCASD, to everybody, and SCASD in particular, because we have a lot of field trips that go out to Millbrook Marsh. So we have a new, they have a new supervisor over there. The second one is that it is Bike Month. And so the General Forum passed a resolution to designate May as Bike Month, and we should all ride our bike as much as possible during this month to celebrate that. And the third is that Eric Nornberg will continue as interim director of the COG through June 27th, because they're still in their hiring process and haven't quite finished that yet. And that's all I have. Thanks.
Okay. Thanks, Gretchen. So at this time, we have public comment. Each individual will be allotted up to 3 minutes for items related to board business that are not on the action items portion of the agenda. For action items, public comment will be held just prior to voting on that item as required by school code. If additional time is necessary beyond our typical 30 minutes, the board may consider reopening public comment after board business is completed or during the next meeting. As a reminder, public comment is a chance for community members to share their thoughts with the board, not a time for the board to answer questions or engage in conversations. You can always email the board at all-board@scasd.org. Is there anyone present in person who would like to make a public comment? Sure, if you want to come up to the podium, if you could just share your name and where you reside in the district, please.
My name is Mary Wolf, Harris Township. My name is Mary Wolf. It's my husband, John Wolf, and our son, Jonathan Sweeney. He's a senior at State High and set to graduate on June 7th. He has attended school in the State College area school district since starting kindergarten at Mount Nittany Elementary. He'll be graduating with honors and is set to start at Penn State in June, majoring in computer science. We are here to ask that accommodations be made to the stage at graduation so that he can march in the commencement ceremony with the rest of the graduates. In order for him to be treated like any other student, there should be a ramp on the side for him to enter the stage, as well as a separate ramp to exit off the front of the stage, just like all of his classmates. Initially, I made this request at his IEP meeting in November of 2023 to the attending LEA, Jacqueline Saylor, who said she would take the request to Laura Tobias. In January and in March, I checked on the status of the request, but there was no update. On April 18th, we were told there would only be one ramp on the side for him to use both to enter and exit the stage. On April 22nd, I sent an email to Superintendent Curtis Johnson asking for help with this issue. After a week, I received a call that broke my heart. He said there would only be one ramp on the side and was told, "It is what it has always been done, and no one has ever asked for it to be different." Well, we asked. In fact, we asked well in advance. We started to reach out on social media, sharing Jonathan's story. There were several offers from people willing to buy, rent, or build another ramp. When I emailed Mr. Johnson to ask for specifics needed, I was told to hold off on doing anything. They'd already checked on local vendors and was told there were no ramps available for rent. The assistant physical plant director is exploring the feasibility of buying a ramp for the front of the stage and whether it can be obtained in time for graduation. I was also told to keep in mind that these types of purchases require school board approval and that Mr. Johnson hoped to have further information to share within the next couple of weeks. We don't have a couple weeks. That is why I asked in November. When Jonathan was diagnosed with spinal muscular atrophy, the doctor told me most kids don't make it to this age, but I'm lucky to get to see him surpass all odds and reach this huge milestone of graduating from high school. After overcoming so many obstacles, it seems a very unfair end to his education to not allow him to be treated like the rest of his peers. It would be great if he could be granted the ability to have a ramp down the front of the stage, if for no other reason than to be included. After all, the State College School District is very fond of pointing out their inclusivity policy. Are you not? This is where the State College Area School District can show that it stands behind their words when they say, and I quote, "We are a leader in being inclusive to all students. It's at the foundation of everything we do. We will do everything we can to accommodate them so that they have the best possible opportunity." It's time for the school district to act on those words and do everything in their power to include a young man who did not choose to be different but was simply born without the ability to walk. He deserves to be treated like every other graduate, and we as parents deserve to see him march across that stage and receive his diploma just the same as every other parent. Put yourself in our shoes. What would you want for your child? Thank you for your time, and I hope you do the right thing, if not only for Jonathan, but for all future graduates who may require similar accommodations. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have others in attendance tonight in person who would like to make a public comment? Okay. Do you have anyone online that would like to make a public comment? You can just raise your hand on Zoom. Okay. So we'll move on to Committee of the Whole portion of the agenda. We have the Culture, Climate, and Learning Committee. Oh, yeah. Yeah, sorry.
Yeah.
I was flip-flopping thinking we weren't Committee of the Whole tonight. I don't know why I was inside out. I'd like to welcome Dr. Bucher and Ms. Knaus to provide an overview of the Character Strong as a positive behavior intervention and support instructional resource for social emotional learning, Tier 1 in middle school implementation, and Tier 2 for K-12.
Hey. Can you hear me? Good? Okay. So what was presented to you was what has been a project that we've worked on with multi-tiered, the MTSS SELs at the middle level, starting last spring actually. And so we took all of this year to look at over 10 different resources and narrowed it down to 3. Had some groups put together to look at these 3 resources and came up with Character Strong as a primary choice for Tier 1. Knowing that Character Strong is one of the few curriculums that also offer a Tier 2 and a Tier 3 implementation. We are really looking at something to make continuity of care through the district. So we were engaged with K-12 principals, K-12 counselors and psychologists, and they reviewed Tier 2 and really liked what it had to offer and liked that continuity of care. The ultimate plan being next year we would implement Tier 1 at the middle level and Tier 2 K-12, while we also do a deeper investigation in doing a K-12 overview of SEL curriculum. So any questions you have, I'm happy to answer them as best I can.
Board members? I really appreciated the extra information you added, just sorting out some of, because some of this is going to be covered luckily by grants from the state, a big chunk of it.
Yep.
And so looking at what our costs are like previously versus moving forward is really helpful.
Yep.
Of course.
Could you just talk a little bit about the process that you went through to choose this particular program? Like, what resources were you using? What kind of evidence were you looking for?
Yeah, sure. Let me find this document on here real quick for you so I can be more clear about that process. And so when we narrowed it down to 3 resources, we looked at, of course, price, lesson topics, sample lessons, number of lessons, length of lessons, grade level specific, parent access, monitoring progress, pre and post assessments, tier 2 and tier 3 accessibility, student access, tech support, training, professional development, use of videos, animated versus people used, icebreaker community building activities, must be completed in sequential order, check-ins, digital versus hard copy lessons, extra resources, based off CASEL competencies, and additional notes related to ASCA model. They did a lot.
Yeah, when you presented that at CCL, the meeting that we had, I was very impressed of the amount of work that went through to to getting this down to this. So I really appreciate all your work, and I really appreciate showing the cost comparison, like Dr. Bader said, because it shows transparency to the public of why we use their tax money. So I really appreciate that.
Right. And I'd like that you asked that for that more. Like, if I'm not giving you something, ask for it. I'm happy to give it.
Thanks. Other questions? Okay, well, I'm excited we'll have some tier 2 resources for all of our staff to utilize. That'll be a really good step forward.
Yep, we're
All right.
excited too.
Thanks so much.
Yep.
Okay, next up, the curriculum team will join us to review several secondary textbooks and electronic equivalents for the 2024-2025 school year. We'll have Ms. Merritt join us.
Good evening. I believe some of my team are on Zoom if we have other questions. So tonight we would like to present 4 new textbooks for adoption. The first is a social studies AP World History book. It's actually not a new book, it's more of the same book we have, but it's a newer edition. So we're looking to purchase some additional classroom sets for the increased enrollment over time that we've had. The World Language Department is requesting a new resource for Chinese 1, 2, 3, and AP Chinese classes. When we implemented the new world language curriculum, Chinese was the only language that didn't adopt a textbook. The teacher at the time felt that she had materials and resources she could use and did not need that. We have a new teacher teaching Chinese who sees the benefit of having a consistent resource that students can build on over the course of those classes. The cost of that, I should have mentioned the world language, the AP World History textbooks are about $16,600. The world language books in total for Chinese 1, 2, 3, and AP Chinese are about $6,800. The CTC program is requesting a new resource for health professions course. They are required to update their textbooks, believe it's every 5 years. And it's a textbook that the state adopts. It's $16,100. And the last request is one that we're also really excited about. It is digital licenses for our new sports officiating strand that will be added to select PE classes. So students can get their youth certification to be able to officiate youth sports in the community. And so those are $50 per license, per seat, and it would depend on which sports the student is interested in officiating. So we would only buy like the number that we need for each thing. So we're pretty excited about that option.
So Chris, would those be annual purchases that we would have to make, or is it a once you get for baseball, it's good for so many years? Or
It would be annual, and the license goes with the student, so they can continue to access the material after the class is over. So
okay, that makes sense. Other questions about the textbooks suggested? Yeah, Debbie.
I didn't send this ahead of time because I figured this was just info and we'd see it again, but the memo that was attached doesn't actually have anything about the sports officiating. So I don't know if that just was left off, but it's not listed. And so I just figured I wanted to point that out because I was really excited about this, but it ends at the health professions.
Oh, sorry about that.
So I should have
Don't
probably
know.
said something earlier, but I was reading late and I said, I don't want to ask them for something
Sorry about
right
that.
before the meeting. So we want to see it,
Yeah.
but
So,
it sounds really exciting.
Sorry about that. Yeah.
Um,
Yep. We did not review every single license for every seat because we couldn't. It would just be too much. So we're excited to try out this program and see if it produces some additional officiants for youth sports.
So would it be like a special section of Select PE would be for kids who want to get certified as officiants?
Yes.
And so that would be an option as opposed to going and doing whatever
Other
variety
options, right? It would be an option.
Okay.
We're hoping that over time we might be able to develop this into its own class, and students might be able to actually become certified in one or more sports. But currently, we're starting with just a strand within Select PE to see how that goes.
Cool.
Yeah, Gretchen.
I don't know what part it wasn't in, but I read all about it.
So wow, how did I miss
I
it?
saw it somewhere.
I don't know.
But anyway,
Did other people see it? Did I just miss it?
The memo mentions
memo.
The memo mentions it, but
Right.
I didn't.
I don't know. I read about it. I don't know where I read, but anyway,
Okay.
what I was going to say though is that as sitting on the Parks Authority to represent the school district, this is an issue, the lack of umpires that has come to us over and over and over again since I've been involved, and there's really not enough. And so to have this happen is really improving the quality for everybody in the whole community who ever needs an umpire for any reason. And it's really such a mutually beneficial thing that's happening here. So I just thought I'd say wonderful.
Thank you. I want to say that, it's really a collaboration between the athletics department, the curriculum department, Tracy Edelman as the coordinator. We've all been working together and just really super excited to bring that forward, along with many of the other new things that we have for next year, like Aspire Ed that's coming and the dual enrollment option. So yeah, we're excited.
Yeah,
Good
and
things are
officiating,
happening.
it's two roles. It's not, it's a great opportunity for them to be involved in the community, but some of those pay. And for some students, that's an important thing that they
Yes.
need. So that's an option for them to earn income for whatever it is, college, their first car, whatever they're looking to get. So that's great.
So we will have these resources available for public review for 30 days, about 30 days, and then we'll bring them back to you for vote in about 30 days.
Great. So anybody that wants to review them, they'll just contact the curriculum office and they'll set up a time.
Yep.
Great.
Thank you.
Did I miss anybody? Okay. So up next, we'll have Dr. Bucher and Dr. Downs join us with members of the Delta Committee to review separate recommendations to the superintendent, representing varying voices of the 17-member committee.
Thank you. So this evening, John and I are here to talk about the Delta Committee's recommendation to the superintendent. We are sharing this informational item with the board. So this brings us to step 2 in the 3-step process. So our 17-member committee had met 14 times since September. And during this time, we shared questions, collected information, and studied and reviewed information and data, as well as discussed and justified recommendations. In March, students and staff, parents, and school board members participated in stakeholder presentations summarizing the Delta Committee progress since September. Following the 5 presentations, feedback was collected from stakeholders. The feedback helped assess the committee's progress and evaluate elements of a possible transition plan from a program to a school. Through this process, the committee could not reach a total consensus in its recommendation. In true Delta fashion, we took the temperature of the room and did a 5-finger vote to help us know what direction the group would go. resulting in separate recommendations representing the various voices of the 17 members, resulting in opinions A, opinions B, and opinion C. Opinion A, Delta becoming a school for the 24-25 school year. Opinion B, Delta remaining a program. And opinion C, Delta becoming a school in the 25-26 school year. This recommendation is shared with our superintendent, Curtis Johnson, for his review.
Okay, so there's some additional information in the memo. Do board members have questions about any items or need clarification on anything? Go ahead, Debbie.
So, not being a member of the Delta community, I don't know if this is an easy question to answer. I understand not having consensus, but was there a way to read the room to like rank order A, B, and C? Was there one that had half support but not all support? Can we get some kind of a feel of differentiating between the three?
Yes.
Could you please share?
It's on, yeah. So,
Then yes.
yeah. So to take the temperature of the room, we voted, right? And so we did a 5-finger vote. After the 3 opinions, you certainly have a committee member sitting up at your table. So Sophia, feel free to chime in. From I could look at the notes, but my recollection is pretty split on opinion A. So just for a summary, let me start here. We try to get consensus when we vote, which means we want all 3s, 4s, or 5s.
Can you? What
So
is
5 means
Yeah.
5 means you support the proposal and you'll take leadership. 4 means you support the proposal but don't want to lead it. 3 means you're neutral. You could go with the proposal and you're not going to fight it. 2 means further discussions needed and you dissent. And 1 is like you're laying on the train tracks for this one. Basically, is how I interpret it. That's not the official Delta language, but that's John's interpretation. And so we did the vote after we educated everyone on the system. And so the opinions A and B were pretty mixed in terms of quite a few dissenters. I would say maybe 40 to 50%. Opinion C, we only had 1 dissenter, the gentleman to my left. And so it was a great process to go through. So he shared his dissenting opinion, and we then kind of divvied up who would take on writing these opinions up and shared them with the whole committee online so people could comment on tweaks and edits and things of that sort. But from my recollection, I think opinion C had the least amount of dissension in terms of the Delta process.
That's
Opinions.
helpful, thank you.
Opinion C is Delta becoming a school in 25-26.
Should be noted we had 3 committee members missing, so there were 3 votes that weren't cast.
Yeah, Dr. Cravicore.
Basically, so now it goes to the superintendent for review or to make a proposal. What is next?
So it comes to me. Then I will bring a recommendation after looking at all 3 proposals and bring it forth for the board for approval.
Once you make a decision on which one, and then we vote on the one that.
Yes.
So there's no more committee meetings. That was the end of the vote, basically. Is that correct?
Well, it depends on
Depends on the outcome
okay.
of this recommendation. I
the
would perceive possibly having the committee reconvene depending on the outcome.
Okay.
I have
Go
a
ahead, Sophia.
question. So are you planning on having your recommendation prepared by the May 13th school board meeting?
So we don't meet again until the 20th.
Yeah.
It's okay. The year's close. The 13th, we're having a equity audit update. So we are
I
meeting.
misread the dates.
Totally okay. But yeah, our next official full meeting would be the 20th.
Yes, I would try to have it by the next board meeting.
Would it be possible to share your recommendation with the Delta committee that was formed about this decision so that if we want to, we can meet to discuss? I don't know if that's something that we want to do, but because you mentioned like possibly reconvening depending on the
Yeah,
recommendation
So
I was thinking on the outcome of the vote
of the school board.
of the
vote.
school board and which of the three, or D, there could be a D, was presented. So there's the opinion, opinion C would require, we were using a longer runway, example of taking more time to talk through what ifs that have come up. So that would be an instance where I think we would have the committee reconvene or a separate committee portion off to answer questions that may need answered.
So my recommendation, it will be public. So yes, I will be able to send it to the Delta community.
Okay.
Gretchen?
I just wanted to let the SCASD community know that Jonathan did an amazing job throughout these 14 meetings. And considering the job he was dealt, really, I mean, blew me away personally. I will say that. And in this moment that John just referred to, when Jonathan needed to defend what he was thinking, he was so vulnerable. It was not expected. And all of us had, in that moment, so much respect for him by doing that and showing his vulnerability. And he's still alive, so it went well. No, just so much respect as a result of that. So I just wanted everybody to know that because it's something I don't think I'll ever forget.
Thank you for your kind words.
Any other questions from, yeah.
So I guess I can read through this and probably piece it out, but I'm trying to understand what is it about opinion C? Like I'm trying to understand what it is that people are like. What's the difference between opinion A and opinion C? What would be different in terms of a longer runway? I'm not.
So in my vulnerability, my vote, I felt that the items needed to be answered or completed, the to-do list to make this happen for the 24-25 school year could be done within 3 weeks. The group C, opinion C, disagreed, and they outlined in the one chart the to-do items that they would want to take a year to complete. In opinion A, it's a hot link as far as the summer action items and then optional items afterwards that are not required to move the process forward. So that would be my summary of the difference of the two differences of opinion of how quickly things could be done, since a lot of questions have been answered along the way.
Yeah, I think if we were sitting here right now and it was February or January, that might be different. But I think with summer approaching and just everything that comes along with summer, people being absent, we just felt that a softer landing would be more palatable to the community and get them more involved in this transition process. So that was kind of a summary of opinion C because of the timing of it all. And it's all about your perspective too, right? I mean, so.
Yeah. Deb?
I guess just to follow up on that, like I read both lists a couple times and I stopped short of putting them exactly side by side, but I was pretty close. And they look to be saying about the same thing, and a lot of the timing seems to be quite similar, again, from just my reading, not having been in the room. and that there are things that would be done immediately over the summer, right? And then other things that would be questions that could be determined, that would take time to determine whether you went with option A or you went with option C. You would take the time to make that determination. So I'm trying to, I guess, to go back to Erin's question, fully understand what is it that putting off making the distinction for a year, what does that buy us? What does that really change in turn? Like, what did I miss that would change right away, I guess?
So I
Do you
think it's
understand what I'm
the
asking?
process and the involvement of the stakeholders.
Okay.
Just because when, like, the confusing part, I think, about this process for many of the Delta community is they're not used to making decisions in this format, right? Where we make a recommendation. We make the decisions and we process it, whether it's a cell phone policy change or what it may be, and it takes time. Democracy, when done best, is sloppy and takes time. And so I think a lot of this is bringing a lot of these decisions back to the community. People don't feel like this decision is part of the community, so I think this transition will just feel better to people as well. There's a feel better aspect of it as well. I think that will come with this time and this transition plan.
That's helpful. Thanks.
Peter?
Yeah, I'll just like say that everything that yes to what John just said, and I think that given the to say it more negatively, I think that not doing it that way will just breed a lot of resentment in the Delta community, and I don't think that it would be for a reason that would ultimately serve the good of the district or the board. I think that we would be walking ourselves kind of backwards in a community sense, when I think that the passage of the resolution really did quite a bit to show our affirmation of the way that Delta has done things. And to say that we would go with C, we would be saying, okay, we're going to move ahead with the school because we think that it is ultimately the right way. But in order to do that, the details that really matter to the culture of the school, I'm already calling it a school, to Delta, would have a level of determination and processing within the community itself that makes a big difference to that community. It works with the community as it is.
Dan?
Yeah, so I mean, this might be jumping ahead too far, but just theoretically say that the recommendation that passes is 25-26, right? I don't want us to be in a position next June and decisions haven't been made, and then we're asking for another year before the transition happens, right? So I've read through all the decisions and soliciting feedback as well. But I think it needs to be mentioned, right? If there is a year time frame, that decisions need to be made in that year. We can't just keep punting it further and further down the field. You know what I mean? So that's all I'd have to say about it.
Gretchen?
I was just going to sum up what Peter said in one sentence because it was spoken at the last committee meeting and I thought it was so powerful. And it's in response to Deb's question. And someone there, and I don't remember who, said the decision, there's a difference between the decision being done with you or to you. And with the long runway, that is done with you. And a short, right away, let's do it now is not. So I just thought that was a powerful sentence.
Yeah, Sophia?
I just wanted to give my perspective as a member of the Delta community. And first and foremost, I want to affirm what Gretchen and Peter have been saying, because that is absolutely 100% correct. To the Delta community, this discussion has come on very suddenly, and because of that, it has brewed a lot of distrust within the community. And I'm not saying that distrust is justified or warranted, but it is there. And it's even... it's been directed at me and then my other high school representative, Sasha, occasionally, because we are seen as like part of this unwanted change. And like what Gretchen was saying, if there was a longer time for the transition, I think it would help a lot of the students become more comfortable with the idea of Delta becoming a school. I think a sudden change would just cause essentially an uproar. People would be very upset and people would feel like their voices weren't heard at all, because right now a lot of people are against this change happening in the first place. But I think if people had more time to get used to the idea and get used to the idea of this change, they'd be more okay with it. So I'm in favor of option C, because I think in the longer run Delta would benefit by becoming a school. However, I think that there needs to be a longer amount of time for this discussion about like what would happen if we became a school to continue, and for people to get more comfortable with the idea, as I said before.
Okay, thanks so much, Sophia.
So, I'm just looking at this list of things of concerns. I would like to know what I'm hearing exactly what you're saying. I'm hearing what Peter and Gretchen are saying. What on this list are things that can't be resolved after Delta? Like, suppose there were a vote, it becomes a school next year. Is there anything on here that if we don't do it now, we don't do it immediately, we can't do it? Like, that basically I'm asking, is there anything on this list that can't happen unless we wait? Or is there anything that will be affected by a vote that happens sooner rather than later?
I didn't see anywhere listed concerns. I saw a list of tasks. Do you want to?
Which list? Are you looking at the
comparison, the Delta and SCASD?
the one?
Yeah, I mean, what are the maybe to Dan's point, what tasks are you going to do over the course of a year that couldn't be done if Delta were currently, like if it were a school next year? All those same tasks, can they still be done while it's a school?
Can I maybe translate your question?
Sure, yeah.
I think what Aaron might be asking is which of the tasks are absolutely required before we apply to PDE, and which are ones that could still be determined once the building code was already issued that doesn't hang up getting that process done. So for example, choosing how the diploma would be, we don't have to have that decided in order to apply to PDE for a building code. Is that kind of what you're getting at? Does that make sense?
Yeah, so I'll take it from the list from Opinion A. There's a list of summer items that would be done, and
Jonathan, you might want to take what you need to get the school to be an AUN, to get them to be a school. There's only one thing that you need for that piece of paper. Okay.
So to get an AUN number for the school, we need a vote from the board, a letter submitted to PD, and a copy of the minutes from the meeting.
And a name.
A name.
For the school. So that's all you would need. All the other things you could have as much time as you want to do. So all the other tasks on there, you could have multiple months, weeks.
There's some little things like the PIAA letter would have to happen before the fall sports season, but those were a couple of the things that Jonathan referred to could be done in a matter of weeks.
So just correct me if I'm wrong. In theory then, were Delta to become a school immediately, you could still absolutely include the Delta community and all the stakeholders in making all these decisions and in doing these things, you know, the tasks that you have. Is that accurate, or?
I don't think we could come up with a name if the community sought out a new name in 6 weeks. Sounds effectively not the way we operate. As an example.
That's exactly what I was going to say. I mean, I don't want to speak on behalf of the Delta community, but just from my experience there, my daughter was a student there, I cannot imagine that it would be accepted with no problem that they're told what their school is going to be called by the board or whoever. So I don't know how long that decision would take. I have no idea. But I think they would consider that to be a really important decision, and so that could take quite some time.
Dan?
So again, I'll bring up, and I agree that's important, that name would be important to the Delta community. I am not fully familiar with Delta. So with the current Delta Way, what would the estimated time frame be to just figure out the name?
I think we could probably do that in 4 to 5 months.
Okay.
So basically we have different iterations of discussion. We have 2 different programs currently impacted, and would have to be kind of one name, right? A middle school version and a high school version, since we can't do 2 separate schools, if that were the case, since we have 6th grade. And so it would come before all school meeting, it would go back to clumps, it would go to advisory council. Advisory council would bring it to clumps, back to ASM, and so there's this kind of cycle of discussion. And we'd have a proposal on the table, and we'd have to put a vote out to all students, and the parent reps, so it takes time.
So I'm just thinking, just theoretically, if we approve this in July, right? And we say you have till 25, 26, we'd be beginning at 20, what are we in 24 right now? We'd be beginning at 25 before we would have a name nailed down. Would we simultaneously be trying to figure out the other issues as well? Or, because, right, again, I'm just concerned, not only for your time, right? Is I know you're busy over at Delta as well, so I just want to make sure that we're using everything as efficiently as possible, keeping the Delta community very involved and happy, but also getting done what we need to get done.
Yeah, I think the name would trickle down to a lot of these other bullet points, to be honest, in terms of like signage, things of that sort, names on diplomas, things of that sort. So, and the graduation requirements as a fluid kind of conversation, that doesn't have to happen, doesn't have to change at all. So a lot of these things are optional changes as well, from my perspective.
So if I could add, it's not a perfect solution, but the name Delta, my understanding of the rules for organizing a school, it's a once-a-year process. So in theory, it could be submitted as Delta program or Delta, and then a year later rename the school that is the name that is selected in the same process.
Yeah, I'd like to just encourage us to stick to clarifying questions since we don't have a recommendation ahead of us at this moment, but go ahead, Peter.
I just think that administrative efficiency sort of misses the point of the recommendation here, which is not a pushback on whether or not it becomes a school, but the voices of the people involved in it, and that's the point. Inclusion is the point.
Yeah. Well, there hasn't been a recommendation.
No,
yet,
I know.
I'm just
like,
saying,
we're having sort of
you're debating something that hasn't happened yet. So
I don't think that I'm the only one debating at the table.
No, I said everyone.
Okay. All right. Got it.
All right.
I have
Yeah,
so
Jackie.
I just want to clarify, option C still states that Delta will become a school in 25-26.
Correct.
Okay. Thank you.
Right, not maybe after a year when we think
Right.
about things some more. Right, correct. It's a good point to make. Okay, any other clarifying questions? Okay, I think we'll move on.
Thank you.
Up next, we have Facilities and Grounds. We're going to be joined by Mr. Brown, Mr. Fisher, and Ms. Weiser from Park Forest Middle School to provide an update on both the district-wide facility master plan and the Park Forest Middle School project. Welcome, welcome. So this is a transition to an exciting topic, so.
Okay, so what we have tonight is a presentation that we've used with our steering committee and community forums. There's a little bit of new information in here for you tonight, but we'll go through a little bit quickly on some of the information that's been available there. If you have any questions, feel free to stop us or we can go back. So the architects, Crabtree Rohrbaugh, have been working with Dr. Weiser, Dr. Bucher, and other administrators as well as teachers to understand what is our instructional plan, how many classrooms, the size of those classrooms, the types of classrooms, to understand what the new building needs will be, not just what the building contains right now. Again, the educational program, it's broken down by grade level teaming, department-based programs, learning support, and core building programs. And this is just another example. And again, if you have further questions, you can ask those. We completed 5 different tours of middle schools across South Central and Central Pennsylvania. We looked at Keith Valley Middle School, Mountain View Middle School, Bermudian Springs, Middletown, and Manheim Township. On a personal note, since I'm speaking, I was at one of the 5 schools. I was very disappointed that we spent the time going there until we completed the tours. And then I realized the benefit of touring in a school that is not yet completed and had a lot of differences from many of the other schools. So I grew in that experience greatly, personally. Karen saw that, right, Karen? So just some findings from our tours. I'm just going to highlight a couple different items here. But one school had an indoor track for physical education and decompression activity space, which we thought was very unique. Not necessarily something that we're looking for, but just thought it was interesting. Various types of collaborative spaces that are also of different sizes. Cafeteria configurations were very different. And then one of the really, I think, hot topics that has come in our district conversation since the building of and opening of our high school is the student book bag, instrument, and athletic equipment storage opportunities. And so I think that the design, when we get to the design team will be working very closely with our instructional leaders and our classroom teachers to really take a look at what the different opportunities are there. Use of color. 2 of the 5 schools used only school colors. That was really noticeable when you went to a school that used a variety of color. And you thought back to, wow, that's a lot of red, black, silver, and white in every hallway, every classroom, every large group space. So the secure access is definitely something that we model by, but there's also additional vestibules and hallway configurations for secure access that we have not taken into account, which we probably will be considering, as well as a nurse's suite as an example that was accessed right from the opening vestibule, and then also a conference suite that was available from the vestibule. Parents didn't even need to go in the office. They could just go right to the conference room. Distinct parent and bus drop-off areas, a main street allowing for open space near the entrance of the building, learning towers / pods similar to our high school layout, fenced outdoor learning spaces, which, by the way, had a donor. Can I repeat that again? Had a donor. We'll work with the foundation on that in the near future. TV studios, garage doors for exterior access for rooms leading into common spaces, and amenities for field maintenance. There's quite a number of things here that came through from the steering committee and community forums, from discussion points. I don't think that any of them are really out of line of what we are thinking as an administration, and we appreciated many of the questions and comments that we received. So just to review, You already did approve the use of the Valley Vista site for this new school, which we're very excited about. And later on in the agenda, there'll be another site discussion that you'll be taking action on your agenda. Just some aerials for those that are less familiar with the site. Again, so far, we're looking at the building location in what I would call the rear of the property, furthest away from Valley Vista Drive, with taking into account some wetlands, some parking, tennis courts, current location, and an existing soccer field. Not, as far as the grounds, not expecting too many different changes there. Several of these other slides are available if you need them, but they're not publicly available because of security needs. I will stop there. Are there any questions or comments about the information about Park Forest Middle School before we move on to the district-wide facility master plan narratives?
Board members? I think many of us luckily got to most of the community forums, so we were fortunate enough to run through this once before.
Absolutely. Well, that's great. Thank you. So the narrative reports have been produced. Mr. Fisher is working with Crabtree to review and understand those assessments, and they are scheduling regular meetings now to continue that thorough understanding and deepen that, as well as looking at budgets for cost estimation purposes for moving forward in this process. Just to summarize, the narrative reports talk about all of our schools, and one thing that I still need to correct Mr. Straub when he talks about this. He talks about 3 of our elementary schools being our oldest schools, but Mount Nittany Middle School is actually our oldest school. However, we have, I think why he overlooks that is we have invested heavily in recent years in making some updates there. But as a core school building, it is our oldest building. The evaluation categories, we've talked about this before, and then we move to next steps. We're continuing to work and to refine and understand the narratives, beginning the development process, budget development process of those narratives, and assigning prioritization within the 5 to 10 year capital plan. One of the other decisions related to the district-wide facility master plan and the facilities assessment will also be future use of the current site for Park Forest Middle School, and obviously just going on the record for the community, the board has had no discussion about that, and we don't expect that to be for a little while. There is a lot of other work that needs to happen with the Park Forest design. Again, looking at potentially a fall of 2028 opening for this new building, so we have several years to make those decisions. And then just in closing, going back to Park Forest Middle School, going to be working to confirm the building program, which Dr. Weiser and Dr. Bucher spent time with Crabtree earlier this morning. We'll continue to make refinements to that program. Again, it is just a schematic design at this point, and what we expect most of next year to be is defining that program and taking that schematic to a design that will be used for the bid documents. Did complete the building tours, working on the preliminary site and floor plan development, and then the site evaluation. So we have scheduled a steering committee meeting for June 12th and a final community forum before a break for summer, June 17th. The steering committee meeting will be at Park Forest Middle School. The community forum will be in this room in Panorama Village at 6 p.m. prior to a board meeting that night. looking in August or September for this facilities and assessments review, along with work on Park Forest. There'll be yet to be determined the timing, but there's also an analysis of playgrounds and athletic facilities. Sustainability initiatives are included in that process as well. Any questions or any comments from either of you two?
Yeah, I'd just like to thank Dr. Bader and Dr. Anderson for joining us on our site visits. I think we had a great experience, and thank you to all of you who have come to the community nights as well as our steering committee nights as well. So we appreciate your support. Thank you.
Questions, Peter?
Yeah, thank you very much. I'm wondering what you think, what's really important for the community to understand. I want to zoom out a little bit about the Park Forest Middle School plan. What do you think is really important for our community to understand about where we're going and what the need is?
Well, obviously, the building, and we'll know more of that once the facility analysis has been vetted, and budget dollars will be put to use there, could be put to use there for that building. But I think personally, one of the things that's very exciting is this can be a very different building for our district. It's going to have a lot of similarities to some of our elementary schools. It's going to have some similarities to our high school. But I think that what we found in a large number of the 5 buildings that we went to, that districts, whether it was 15 years ago or just in the most recent 5 years, have really put together some neat buildings that are very functional, usable, and forward-thinking for student learning. And I think that we're on track for doing that same thing. And I will say that I've been very impressed with the staff that I've gone on the tours with, that I'm working with on the steering committee, and that have attended the community forums, because they understand, although they don't like Randy's no and the word budget, but they understand that and they're very respectful of that. And as Crabtree has built some schematic designs and different features in that design, they've themselves, before Crabtree or the administration has had to say, okay, what we need to make some trade-offs here, they've been offering those up. And so that's been really impressive to me.
Yeah, I think it's really interesting that the buildings we visited, middle school is our bridge between both ends of our K-12 experiences, but also the buildings we visited really functioned a lot that way. As you mentioned, like, you know, the spaces that they used mirrored both ends of the spectrum to some degree. And it was also interesting to learn a lot of districts use that middle school building for quite a lot of community-based events. A couple of the schools we visited, their high school was just adjacent, so it was a lot easier for them to use it. That won't be our experience, but yeah, those opportunities for community engagement were really a big part of a lot of the schools we visited. So I think that will be a really interesting thing that we talk and think about through the design of this one too. I don't know, Debbie, if you wanted to add anything about like what we've seen versus, you know, to share with the community.
I felt very fortunate to have a chance to go visit because I was not on the board when we built the other recent buildings. It was pretty interesting to watch. I think a couple of the things that really struck me were the different designs of cafeteria, whether it was like super wide open or a little bit more enclosed. Certainly the discussion about lockers. Most of the schools we visited had them, but the kids weren't using them necessarily. So I think that's something. But we saw lots of backpacks on the floor. And so we definitely want to be intentional about cubbies or where are these backpacks going to go if we don't have lockers, and remembering that a lot of kids have 2 backpacks, one for their school stuff and one for their sports stuff. So I think that was really helpful. But it was a great experience, and I appreciated getting to interact with the teachers who were on the tour because they're the ones that use the building. And so I really sort of defer to their opinions on the best way to use the space. So it was really educational for me to hear how they were looking at the buildings. So thanks.
Have anything to share? Okay.
Other questions from the board? Aaron?
Just a quick question about the existing site, the current site for Park Forest Middle School. Would we anticipate making upgrades and changes to that building at the same time, or like shortly after building the new school, or would that be something that we do a little further down the road, if we're keeping it as it is or tearing it? I mean.
That's yet to be determined, obviously, depending on what we would do with this school. I think Mr. Brown mentioned Fairmount as well. As we it's kind of the same thing. As we vacate a building, we're going to have to make that decision. We would leave the heat on, right? Or we mothball it, drain everything. I mean, there's a lot of things that will go into that. But kind of the first step will be what is the direction we'll head, with the school. Do we want to put some money into it, or, or whatever, whatever decision the board makes. So.
Well, and I think we need some more information from our district-wide planning in terms of, like, we're not looking at athletic fields as of yet. So, like, that may be a factor that we want to think about when we're talking about what do we do with property. So we may need to have a little bit more of that get completed before we think about what those options are of what to do with that property. Just one idea to consider. Yeah.
I think it's really important to keep in mind that we've been really focused on fast-tracking Park Forest because we know that there's been an acknowledgement that there's been a need there. There's a lot of other work that needs to happen before we can evaluate a district-wide facility master plan. So and I'm not trying to delay any decision or delay any work. It's all-encompassing, and there's a lot yet to be done there.
All the trains aren't going to get to the station at the same time.
No.
Other questions? Okay, thanks very much.
Thank you.
I think next we'll have Mr. Brown share update on the power purchase agreement along with input for Peter and Gretchen.
Correct. So fortunately, as I was writing this memo, I received an update from our appointed solicitor, and they were letting us know that there had been some fortunate turns of events for us. And it does look like, although it still could be weeks and maybe a month till we see the final documentation, that's just ticking and tying, dotting I's and crossing T's, and ensuring that all of the documents that have been prepared over the last several months are consistent in their messaging because they are interrelated. But what we are very fortunate is that one of the large sticking points that had been a concern has been resolved. And so we are looking right now for a beginning of June to have the documents suite in our hands. We are hoping, we meaning the project management team that's working on this, are hopeful that we can have them by the end of May to distribute and give the entire month of June to review, but just not sure what that looks like yet. But I've received that from not only the solicitor, but also from the consultants. And so in addition to that document suite that we've received, that we shared a draft of with you previously, there's also the memorandum of understanding and then the Green Sky consulting agreement that will need to be forthcoming as well. And so we're working heavily on those to get those completed. Peter and Gretchen, do you have anything else to share?
Randy's awesome.
Ditto.
It's a team effort.
It's true, but Randy runs point on a lot of things in this as the staff person, and I know we've said this a number of times, but Randy and Pam Adams do a lot of work, and it takes a level of commitment to your professionalism to make sure that things are seen through. And I just think that people in the district should understand that those two and the teams of people behind them are making this possible. And I am just really, really grateful for that. It's really a pleasure.
Agreed. I'm not surprised. been lucky enough to see Randy's good work for many years now. So, any other questions on the power purchase agreement? Okay, then we can move on to the budget. Maybe get Mr. Brown a break after this.
So Mr. Vigilone is going to join us, and he is going to drive tonight and lead you through our latest budget updates. I will just share with you that as we asked you at the April 15th meeting to approve a proposed final budget, there have been some changes. Mr. Vigilone is going to explain those highlights of changes. The one item that has not changed is our proposed tax increase of 2.65%. There is this budget does assume use of fund balance. However, we will explain together the rationale and the hope that we don't have to use all of that. But we do feel that given in one area especially the high increase in our health care that we experienced this year, we need to set ourselves up in this budget to be able to use that fund balance, as there is some different restrictions with that. And we've been guided by our auditors and also folks at the Pennsylvania Association for School Business Officials, who have lots of experience in this as well, to make some changes in this proposed final budget for you. Go ahead.
Thank you. So we'll start off real quickly. The 24-25 budget proposes a tax increase of 2.65% to 50.9228 mils, which is approximately a 1.3 mil increase over the prior year's millage. You can see on this chart the previous 4 years' tax increases and the changes that have occurred in our budget. Noting on this page, the key is the revenues are, expenses are excess of revenues by about $7.6 million. Utilization of $5.5 million of fund balance to offset that leaves about a $2 million reduction in fund balance, which would leave unassigned fund balance, according to this budget, at 6.13%. Moving forward to slide 5, the biggest change on this slide is on May 1st, the Department of Education sends out a notification about property tax reduction, and the information on this page has been updated to reflect that letter. It was a substantial increase this year over the prior year. So moving on to the next slide, this is a change in the budgetary expenses, which is explained later on in the presentation. The big impact, though, is, as we discussed, the change in health insurance. And this will be the roll forward with the fund balance from the beginning to the end, as what was proposed to you in the 23-24 budget in the longer term projections as to where it is at the most recent board presentation. So the budget changes since the 4/15 presentation. Health insurance has been increased by $1 million based upon updated information. Contingency has been increased, and that is due to a change in methodology for health insurance that Mr. Brown mentioned before. The Pennsylvania Department of Education has a spending cap in terms of budgeted expenditures that you can expend upon. So if you have a very heavy health insurance years because of being directly insured, you're going to start approaching that cap. So the idea in here was to put the worst case scenarios, such as what may have occurred this year that came from the actuaries versus their expected scenario, and put that into contingency and fund that contingency amount with the usage of committed fund balance in the same amount. So the idea is it would allow us to tap the committed fund balance in the amount necessary to cover any higher than expected claims years from the actuaries. This budget also reflects the addition of 2 positions, an IT manager and an MTSS and intervention support secretary, as well as an adjustment of a bus driver positions to expected occupied positions. On this slide, this is the functional expenses on one side. On the other side, it is your major expense categories. As you can see with the percentages on either side, on the right side or on the bottom, it's largely consistent with the prior year. These slides were shown at the last meeting, and they are largely unchanged in terms of the utilization of fund balance and the decline in the fund balance. Going on to the next slide, would show the impact of the real estate tax increase at 2.65 on the three major types of properties within the district. And then the next step, at May 20th, board meeting and a budget hearing for the final budget of 24-25, and then the committee of the whole on June 3rd, with board action being required to adopt the final budget on Form PDE 2028, the homestead and farmstead exclusion resolution, the annual tax levy resolution, as well as the installment payment plan resolution.
We'll also note that the budget hearing summary document, as we typically do, has been provided to you for your review a meeting prior to that hearing, and that will be at 6 o'clock in this room on May 20th, and immediately preceding the regular board meeting at 7 o'clock.
All right.
Any questions?
So I had a question about the new positions. Just if they're brand new positions, are we going to then get job descriptions and other information in terms of if they're brand new roles?
I don't think we have the.
For the
which-
IT man, well,
IT
this
manager.
is the first time
Okay,
we've seen
yes.
IT manager and the MTSS intervention support secretary.
So yes, we will have an explanation and a job description or position announcement.
Okay.
Mhm.
Just so we can, I mean, I can understand the support secretary, that's pretty straightforward, but like what the IT manager role will kind of fill in, it would be helpful, just to understand.
Linda Pierce is working on a job description.
I
with
figured,
Justin.
yeah, I figured
That's
it being you just newly worked it into the budget, we were still anticipating getting some things, I just wanted to confirm. Yes, Gretchen?
I just didn't know what this meant. So adjustment of bus driver positions to expected occupied positions. What does that mean?
So over the last several years, several of our bus runs have been picked up by our third parties. And so when we went back and did a further reconciliation, we realized that we can reduce the number of budgeted positions even without relying on more third parties in next year. That still gives us capacity to hire more individuals if they come forward. Does that make sense? Sure.
Peter, did you have a question?
No, you asked the question I was going to ask.
Anybody on the side? Other questions on the budget? Going once, going twice?
Okay.
Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you.
This concludes the committee of the whole portion of the meeting, and I'm going to call a 5-minute recess for a restroom break, and then we'll start back up with public comment. I'd like to reconvene the May 6, 2024 State College Area School District School Board of Directors meeting, and we've concluded our committee of the whole portion of the agenda, and we're going to move on. And we're going to start with public comment. We have time for additional public comment. Is there anyone in person who would like to make a public comment? Do we have anyone online that wants to make a public comment? Just raise your hand on Zoom. Okay, then we'll move on. Next up, we have our consent agenda, where we have several items to be addressed in a single motion to approve all. However, to simplify questions and discussion, we're going to proceed through each category stepwise. As I identify each group, if you have clarifying questions, please let me know. So first we have the minutes. Any problems or questions with the minutes? Okay. Next, we have finance and personnel. In this category, we have some items such as next year's meal prices and the start of our purchases for our new musical instrument replacement cycles. Some highlights. Any questions? Yeah, Jackie. Yeah.
Not really a question, but I did want to say out loud in the meeting that the proposed increase in school lunches would be an additional 10 cents for elementary school lunch next year, as well as an additional 10 cents for high school lunch next year, which would help us. Well, Ms. Shaver, do you want to come tell us at all about why we need to increase? Because things are expensive, right?
They're expensive.
I am so supportive of your program and think it's so awesome. Like, any chance for you to highlight what you do in the food services?
We need to increase prices because, like everybody else's bills, costs are going up. You know, our staff are all getting raises, and health insurance is costing more, food certainly costs more, and at the same time, we've been getting some extra support from USDA over the last few years, and that extra support is going away. So just to try to kind of at least stay in place a little bit with our program, we do have to raise lunch prices. But as I mentioned at the beginning of the meeting, I'm going to be going to a meeting in Harrisburg on Wednesday advocating for free meals for all. And I think that's certainly something we all as a community would have to pay for. Nothing's free for everybody, but I think it would be a great help to our students and our families, and something I'm certainly in favor of.
Yeah. Are the USD changes waning stuff from the pandemic, or is it just being pulled back?
It's waning from the pandemic.
Okay, that's what I suspected. Okay.
Thank you.
That was such a help.
Thank you.
Other questions from the finance portion? Yeah, Aaron.
Just a comment I wanted to make. I heard from a lot of parents about this purchase of musical instruments, and I think a lot of people have been hoping for this for a long time, so I'm really glad to see it on here.
Mm-hmm. Yes, that's why I highlighted. It's an exciting one. Dr. Carvacor?
Yeah, I do have a question about Emma.
Can you got it.
The purchase of Global Vending Books machine. And the question, well, I have a few, but my main point is, the total cost is $6,340, and I just wanted to understand, is that because of the books, the tokens, the shipping?
So I had some questions about this too, so I'll let Ms. Yoder come in, but I'll tell you what I know so far. So that's the actual cost of the vending machine, which is being paid for by Shelley Buckholtz, our outgoing principal there. So that is going to be paid in full by a donation that she's made to the foundation. So only part that the district is going to pay for is the shipping cost, which I don't know if we have the shipping cost just yet of the physical item. But the books, I think, are being donated by the PTO.
Yeah, so
Did I get all that?
As part of a positive behavior supports, it was something she wanted to provide the donation. Vending machines are becoming, book vending machines are becoming just an interesting incentive for students. This one would be a standalone, and the materials would be continued to be purchased through the PTOs. So different PTOs do different things. She wanted to be this is a gift from her as part of her retirement for the students and staff at Ferguson Township.
Okay, so we only have the shipping costs.
Yes.
And what about the tokens?
So the tokens come with it, like that is part of it, and like I said, the books will, a lot of times we give books as incentives, but they will be purchased by us, like our choice books through the PTO that will then go into that machine and restocked as needed.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I had similar questions. So, other questions from the finance portion? Yeah, Debbie.
Did you ask all of your questions on the vending machine? Like if there I did. And Amy,
Yeah,
did you have more?
hers were basically mine. So
Okay.
yeah.
If there were more on that topic, it seemed to make sense to stick to that topic.
Yes.
I was just wanted to ask a question on on the IT purchases for the coming school year. And I apologize for not sending this in advance. Is Justin online? He is? Okay.
Yeah.
So if possible, and again, I apologize, I didn't get a chance to send this ahead of time. I was just curious about the cost for Power School, because I had a chance right before the meeting to look back and see. We approved an annual cost not to exceed, which was pretty close to this, but a little bit lower, in November for Power School. And so is this just an updated cost? Like, or it's not in addition to what we approved in November, I guess is what I'm trying to ask. Do we do this on a calendar year basis? Do we do this on an academic year basis?
It's on a calendar year basis, and that just the annual renewal charge.
Okay, so when we approved the switch to Power School in November, we thought the annual expense at that time was going to be about $165,000, and now it's just listed as $180,000. So that's just a little bit higher than we thought. It's not totally added those two numbers together.
Sure. So the 165 was a prorated amount because it was a partial year. So our annual renewals are typically in July.
Gotcha.
So that was a prorated amount with installation service fees.
Okay.
Whereas this is the annual amount with no proration or service fee.
Okay. Thank you. That's helpful.
Yep.
I do have
Yeah, Carla.
one. Well, this is not really a question. I just want to make sure that the public know, because I was looking at it too. F, the LifeLink PSU amendment, that the fact that the room is increasing by 30%, but it wasn't because of something that we asked. It was because of their repair. So everything is staying the same, including the cost. Okay, I just want to make sure that the public also knew that. And for my own sake, I just want to make sure about that. Thank you.
That's my understanding, yeah. All right. Moving on to instructional programs, we have some student travel and approval of some exchange students. Any questions in this category? Okay. How about for physical plant? We have a grant submission, which will be really wonderful if we can receive it from PA Department of Community and Economic Development for some rooftop ventilation work at Mountain Any Middle, along with some other routine contracts. Any questions? Okay. Well.
Sorry.
Oh, yeah.
For the item B, the grant I mean, it's kind of a little thing, but the grant application isn't actually all filled in. So I don't know how much of a grant we're asking for. Like, it's a blank application. And so I was just hoping that we'd hear the details.
This is for the physical plant.
Yes.
So we are waiting on cost estimates.
Okay.
So the grant application, you cannot be under contract with anybody, so we can't go to bid.
Right.
So we've asked for budget estimates from 3 contractors. We'll also have an estimate from our engineering firm as well. So an architect's estimate that we'll submit. So once we have all of that, I also have to write the benefits of the equipment that we're installing and why we're asking for the grant. Then we'll submit with the resolution paperwork.
Okay,
that would
so
be
we're
signed by
just
the
giving
board.
you permission to request the grant, but we can't fill in the details because we don't know them all yet.
Right, we're still waiting. I have 3 weeks yet.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions from anywhere? Anything we missed? Instructional programs, physical plant, finance, personnel? No? Okay. Making sure we're all covered. All right. So if that's the case, I'd like to call for a motion to approve the consent agenda items through 10 through 13 as presented.
Miller, so moved.
Colby, second.
All right, that's been moved and seconded. Is there any public comment, any questions or, well, we did questions or discussion. So any public comment on this item? Okay. Not online? All right. Then board members in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed? All right. So that's passed.
All right, I would like to take this opportunity to congratulate our new 2 elementary principals, That would be Kara Trewick and Beth Solinsky. Kara's coming from Gracewood. Or from Mount Newton.
Yeah, so we're
Welcome
very
aboard.
Yeah, it's exciting. So we can move.
Beth is online with us.
Oh, congratulations to Beth as well then. I'm glad to hear that she was able to be here.
Thanks, everybody.
Great. We look forward to meeting you in person. So we can move on to action items on the agenda. Agenda item 14A is a motion to approve the Title II MTSS position. This is shown in attachment 14A.
Miller, so moved.
Have second.
Okay, that's been moved and seconded. I think before we open it up for questions and discussion, I think we potentially were having a little bit of an update. Yeah, no, maybe? I'm not sure. Okay. Okay,
I'm fine
that's
with
fine.
just
You're
questions. It's
okay.
easily-
So any questions or discussion on this particular item? Peter?
Yeah, I have a few questions. So, I guess one of them might be something that has to go into the bike rack parking lot. We had. I'm just trying to use
Parking lot, you were
Right.
correct.
I know, but the bike rack is nicer because then we don't have. You know, it's a smaller. It's a smaller vehicle. So at the last meeting, we heard a concern about a lack or a change in the support to the elementary teachers through those coaches. And I know that so the position we're talking about doesn't do that anymore. And I'm wondering how, and if this has to be an agenda item for some other time, how that support is being made up, or if it is really just going away.
I mean, I can answer to the best of my ability. So as we have shared with some of the shifts when we reduced the three, there were 4 instructional coaches, 1 is retiring. We are replacing in the elementary schools with some specialized special education positions to really support student behavior, student needs that we have. We are adding 2 elementary curriculum coordinator positions. So those interviews are in process now. They have not been named yet. So they are really, when you look at the 4 positions. There was an assistant director of curriculum that was hired, Jackie Saylor, that will support the curriculum office in a K-12. So although it is not specifically elementary, elementary will have support of both Mrs. Merritt and Mrs. Saylor. So the curriculum coordinators will really be in the classrooms, working with the teachers, working with really continuing to build K-5 systems of curriculum for all subjects, but also really align it with Mr. Johnson's vision of K-12. Then there is an additional, this position that is really looking at professional development, the need for professional development academically with, I would say, MTSS systems, our structured literacy initiatives for explicit instruction, things like that. So I do not see it as a loss. Yes, the instructional coaches did support primarily our classroom teachers. The positions we're putting in really should be more comprehensive to be supporting the student needs and supporting all levels of teachers, including interventionists, and support as far as classroom teachers too, just in a different model.
Okay. So I guess that, one of the things, there was some, I would call it vigorous nodding by some of the elementary teachers at the last meeting, and some follow-up that there's just a concern of a lack of in-class support for some of those teachers, and there is a feeling of loss of support for them. And so I'm worried that and I realize we're in violation of Title II, so I'm trying to I understand that this thing has gotten tangled up. I'm just concerned about that sense among our elementary teachers. because it's been expressed to me very directly. So I'm just bringing that to the floor. I think that we, I'm not quite sure what the board can do about that. We have to work with you all, but that's there, and I don't know if it's going to go away, and I don't know if it should.
No, and I understand. We really, teachers matter a lot to me. I hope that they believe that. We are really looking at what is needed in our elementary systems. Work pretty closely with our collective bargaining unit where there is a need right now. They have come forward for students with diverse needs and individual behavioral concerns, and what can we do to really support all types of learners that come into our school. Although the supports we are putting in are different than instructional coaches who really go into classrooms, we continue to have behavioral specialists that will be able to use. The addition of these special education positions, I personally think, can be very beneficial to all classroom teachers that are dealing with, maybe one or two children that just need some extra support that we have not been able to give, that some of these new positions will be able to provide. I also believe with the addition to the curriculum office with Mrs. Saylor, I am excited to continue to work with Dr. Hammersley Quick, who is focused on elementary for special ed, and Dr. Klingeman and Mrs. Merritt to really continue to support our systems and provide what they need. And Mr. Johnson said all along, we are going to continue to look at this model by adding curricular coordinators. We're really hoping that we can take and get a deep dive into our curriculum and continue to look at next year and continue needs.
And I would say, in addition, we also have professional learning communities in the elementary, which is new, induction program, which will be a 2-year induction program. And so these are things that were put in to help our new teachers. We also, in our high needs elementary schools, where there's a population, we have added deans to help our administrators to become more instructionally as far as helping other teachers in need that will be able to get out of their offices and away from discipline and actually help and assist teachers where there's need. And we have a dean here that can also speak to what she has been able to do to help classroom teachers that needed help, either with classroom management or other things. So there are supports, and I would say numerous supports to help our elementary, and we will revisit as we have always done, just like we did with the assistant curriculum director. So we have to prioritize the needs of our elementary students and their needs, and meet with federal mandates for special education. And as we know, that population is increasing, and we need to address it.
And I had one other question, which might have a follow-up. So, Jonathan, can you explain a little better to me how this position is really different from what you do and will augment what you're doing?
So Title II has very strict requirements on how it's supposed to be used, and why, when you take a look at the strategic plan and the focus on some of those goals related to literacy, MTSS, the whole child, ESL students as well, we have really two options when it comes to Title II. One of them is to either have a supplemental position that will be at our highest needs elementary school or Title I schools, or a district-wide position that will support all. So when you take a look at all of that piece, what we want to be able to do is ensure that we have consistency through all of the tiers, especially with some of the new way we're taking a look at providing intervention and support. So one of the challenges that we have right now, for example, progress monitoring and benchmarking is a very, very important part of not only special education, but our fidelity to our agreement with PDE to offer specific learning disabilities through response to intervention. To do that, right now, to fall through Fidelity, we have trained teachers to be, for example, Acadience Mentors, which is the program we use. But in order to be offering the on-call training and support that schools are asking for, especially with a lot of turnover in paraprofessionals and teachers, and we're building new systems, what I have to do is actually cancel some interventions and pay for substitutes as needed in order to provide the level of support beyond, like during as part of the day. So this is going to be a position in a K-12 piece that is going to help to learn all of the different advanced tiered support models, the programs, the resources that we have that will be able to provide direct support to school teams on a K-12 system, including things related to ESL. As we continue to build our ESL program, what are the needs within that department? How structured literacy and the requirements for structured literacy in a K-12 manner. With Act 49 and the change, or Chapter 49, can't remember the word, any teacher with certain credentials have to receive X amount of hours in structured literacy training. It's not just an elementary requirement, it's also a secondary requirement. So how can we ensure that there is an oversight and a consistent model for professional development related through Title II to things that can be approved upon, but then also make sure that our teams have flexibility to receive multiple different types of sustained and ongoing professional development. That's one of the challenges that we have with so many different things that need to be done. I'm hoping that with this position we'll also be able to build more synchronous, asynchronous, hybrid type experiences that will allow for some of these things to happen more often, more regularly, and be more thoughtful of that.
And so these are what you just walked through, you are not able to do at this time, all of them.
Personally, offering all of the professional development myself in a K-12 manner, no.
Okay. And nor can your staff.
Oh, yeah, it's a secretary.
Yeah, I don't have a staff. So yes, that's correct. The only people that I have to actually help to implement this are the intervention and support teachers who are actively working with students. So this is going to be an opportunity to ensure that there's some consistency moving forward, and the opportunity to make sure that we're not pulling intervention and support teachers away from kids in order to help build the capacity of others as well.
Thank you.
Oh, sorry. Anne, yes. I wasn't sure if we were done yet.
Because I'm new, I just wanted to kind of clarify if I can. So the instructional coaches, they supported the new literacy program. What was their role?
Their role has changed. It changed throughout the years. It really, they would do coaching cycles with teachers who were interested in doing it, pending the buildings that they worked in. They might have looked a little bit different. They did in the past work with our past director of elementary curriculum to work through some PD. So they did offer certainly PD, offer trade time, things like that. Primarily until this year, they really focused on what we call tier 1 or classroom level teachers. With an MTS system, it is critical that everything is aligned. So this year we had worked with them to understand that they really could be supporting anybody within the initiatives that we had set forth.
Yeah, and it's really more like an informational, educational kind of thing for me. When you shift positions like that, is there a way that then we evaluate the impact of such shifts later on? I don't even know like what a metric of that would be, and I don't even know if that's even a thing, but I'm just trying to learn about this process of different roles and then how we evaluate them, and how when shifts happen, how does that get evaluated after the fact?
I can add a little bit of that. So for anything federal, we have to obviously have program-related goals, and SMARTY goals, they're actually called, and be able to measure the effectiveness. So we use a professional learning platform to make sure that all of these things are entered into, so that teachers show up on a roster, but then also provide some sort of feedback at the end in order to earn Act 48 credits, and et cetera, et cetera. So for Title II, this is an example that I have been doing, and this the Title II position the supplanted Title II position has been in existence for as long as I've been working in this role. And we've been measuring success of that in that way, really. The problem with that, again, comes with what also needs to be changed as a part of Title II is also the evidence-based issues as well. So when you start to take a look at curricular resources, any sort of funding that we put into this position can only really be using evidence-based resources for professional development, and that would be measured through those types of pieces as well. So that's one small way, and really the way that I kind of see we're really, and I know this may not feel the way that it seems, but like from my lens, I see what we're doing in terms of professional development across the district is shifting it around and aligning it more versus siloed and kind of places. Under Title I, we have expectations for transition planning between pre-K and K, 5 to 6, 9 to 12, 8 to 9. What are those types of things that are really, really important that need to be better aligned so that the kiddos who have needs and supports in, for example, 5th grade are not lost when they get to 6th grade. And if our systems aren't really talking, then it's pretty easy for sometimes those cracks to get a little bit larger.
Super. Other questions? Okay. All right, then we have a motion and a second. Do you have any public comment on this item? Okay. Board members, all those in favor, please say aye.
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 Those opposed? Okay, that item is passed. Agenda item 14B is a motion to approve the 2024-2025 school psychologist internship sub-recipient agreement as shown in attachment 14B.
Also moved.
Anderson, second.
Okay, that's been moved and seconded. Do you have any questions or discussion on this item? So this is really helpful. We're going to get some extra funding and have more professionals to work with our students, so that's always a win. Yeah. No? Okay, do we have any public comment on this item? All right. Board members in favor, please say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Those opposed? All right, that item is also passed. We'll move on to agenda item 14C is a motion to approve an attendance area change for Coral Street, Easterly Parkway, and Radio Park Elementary Schools. This is shown in attachment 14C.
Miller, so moved.
Will be second.
Okay, that's been moved and seconded. Any questions or discussion on this item? I just want to say I really appreciate, I had some clarifying questions after the initial memo was posted, and I think we got some really refined definitions of how this is all going to roll out, and I'm excited that Coral Street is going to have its own ESL center. I think that's going to be really beneficial for those students in that attendance area. So
Agreed.
I think this is a positive, personally I find it a positive move forward for our elementary students. Any other questions from board members? Okay, any public comment on this item? Okay, board members in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed? All right, that item is also passed. Moving on to agenda item 14D is a motion to approve engagement with Baker Tilly in pursuit of federal renewable energy tax credit as part of the Inflation Reduction Act of 2022. Yeah, 2022. This is shown in attachment 14D.
Call move.
Buck, second.
Okay, that's been moved and seconded. Do we have any questions or discussion on this item? So this is going to be, we've already kind of approved to work with Baker Tilly to define some engagement to apply for funds for Inflation Reduction Act, and we've now identified a potential project that they're going to help us get ready for. Yeah, Peter.
Yeah, I actually don't have a question. I just want to say that I think that this is, I'm really glad that we're doing this. You know, there's so much that local governments and can get out of the IRA, and I'm just really glad to see us taking this step, and I hope that other districts and local governments take advantage of it because it can really make a difference. So thanks so much for doing it.
Yeah, and we're fortunate to have someone local who can assist us with that process because we know it's pretty involved and can be fraught in terms of making sure that you get awarded the funds. So
the Treasury Department.
Yeah. Any other questions? Any public comment on this item? Okay. Then board members in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? All right, that item is passed. Agenda item 14E is a motion to approve the purchase of 7.4 acres along Valley Vista Drive from Hallbaker Brower Limited Partnership, to authorize the board president and board secretary to execute the agreement of sale and authorize the business manager and solicitor to take such action as may be necessary to close the sale. This is shown in attachment 14E.
Miller, so moved.
Buck, second.
Okay, that's been moved and seconded very eagerly, understandably so. Is there any questions or discussion on this item? So, yeah.
Well, I was just going to say, for the benefit of the public, could you just describe where this property is in relation to the location that we've chosen for the new Park Forest Middle School?
Absolutely. This property is runs parallel with Valley Vista Drive and is basically between Valley Vista Drive and our property on where we are looking to build a new elementary school. It is also accessible from Little Lion Drive as well. And so it does extend beyond our property, going towards the movie theater on Valley Vista Drive, for lack of a better way to describe it. And so it will be, we will continue to work with our engineers and architects to find the best use of the property. However, if anyone has any concerns, the building will not be moved to the front of the property. It will be used for access or other uses, but not the building.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think we've already kind of determined with Crabtree that the sloped site at the back of the site is really going to be used to our advantage in terms of designing the building and having a potential 3-story classroom structure. So this will be beneficial for some other purposes. Correct. And we certainly were asked about it by a lot of local residents in the Park Forest neighborhood about what about that piece of property. So we're happy to be able to talk about this at the meeting this evening. Any other questions? All right, any public comment on this item? All right. Board members in favor, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed? All right, that item is passed. That concludes our agenda for this evening. Looking ahead to future meetings, we have Monday, May 13th, Board Equity Work Session. That's going to be here in Panorama Village in the boardroom at 4 p.m. Monday, May 20th, we'll have our next board meeting with a budget hearing just prior. 7 p.m. is the regular board meeting. Randy, you said the budget meeting starts at 6 o'clock. Okay, just wanted to make sure I had that correct. Tuesday, May 21st, we'll have a Policy Development Committee meeting at 1:30. And Wednesday, May 22nd, we'll have a CAC for Athletics meeting, usually through Google Meet. And with that, I will adjourn tonight's meeting of the State College Area School District Board of Directors to an executive session. Have a good evening, everyone.